Season 1, Jeff, BaRRaCCuDDa, and the North American Sweethearts bring it home under the banner of Cognitive Pride.
No one thought had a chance at the finals coming into this event. Coming as the number 2 seed. Face down, ripping through, Titan, down, falls 3, a double kill for himself. It's a 5-man run. They're gonna go for the win.
The world champions, Cognitive Pride, GG!
Season 2, we say hello to Europe as Adapting and Epsilon Esports slam it home.
Make a huge play. Adapting's about to go up. He's going to come crashing down. Who's the target? It's going to be all 3, and 2 will get stunned out.
Oh, no.
He's taking tons of damage.
Oh, no.
Chaos wants to move forward.
They don't have enough time for this. They don't have enough time for this.
No, it's a deicide. Ladies and gentlemen, Epsilon Esports.
Season 3, new name, same roster. 2-time world champions, Rapper and NRG.
Well, there's 4 members left, and into the sky goes Adapting. The ultimate's rained down. The Titan is under siege. Energy are looking to be world champions again. Long live the king! And once again, the king is Europe.
Season 4, Polar Bear Mike brings it back for America. E-United slams the hammer.
Kraken and knocked back. There's Deathwalker controlling things. Panicat takes down Wolfie. Where's the remainder of the team fight?
Deathwalker falls to Venenu, and E-United keeps on going because Panicat
That's 2! Still pushing forward. They're at the Titan. Only 2 members to play defense.
They can't do it!
And that's the game. That's the series. That is your Smite World Championship. Say hello to your North American victors, Polar Bear Mike and E-United.
Season 5, new map, new players, new teams, same destination. Who raises Thor's hammer? The Smite Pro League.
Good afternoon and welcome back to another SPL day. It's week 3 now. We've seen a couple of the teams play so far, and today's all about North America. Myself and Taco will be bringing you all the action from the desk today. Taco, North America, what are you excited about?
Europe looked pretty spicy yesterday, and I'm kind of expecting some of the same stuff over in NA. We've seen a lot of variations in terms of just overall meta gameplay and what a lot of these teams are trying to accomplish with their drafts. And I think with NA having undergone so many recent roster swaps, there's bound to be some differences in their playstyles as well.
So we're going to see Spacestation versus Splyce to start the day, ending it with Trifecta and Luminosity, and in the middle, E-United versus CLG. Some nice, decent games here today. Now, all these teams, they're taking part to try and get themselves to the World Championships, and you guys can go too. HRX tickets are on sale right now, a little bit earlier than previously for the World Championship. It's going to be the 16th of November through to the 18th. You can get your tickets at hi-rez.com.
And make sure you keep an eye out for those after-party tickets also, because you're going to want to hang out for the stuff after the stuff. Get a little bit of downtime with some of the pros.
Are you going to wear the outfit?
Sure.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask. I was like, hey, that's a good skin on there. I wonder if that
Everybody
was
enjoys a good little cosplay every now and then. I'm sure the cosplayers will be there as well.
They do. They always are at the after party. So to get your tickets for that as well, the other thing to mention, Mixer, you're watching live on that right now. Make sure you link your frickin' account, okay? Link your account now. Make sure you can get some freebies by watching the streams.
We've seen enough where is SPL Bologna skin in the chats long enough now for you guys. This is your guaranteed chance to get 100%. No questions asked. You finally have your opportunity, so make sure you take it.
So before we get into the games, let's have a little look in at North America's standings and see exactly how these teams line up today. United top of the shop at the bottom. Still not found a win so far. This split trifecta. And then all the other teams in between.
But man, E-United have really just been super dominant in North America, and I don't think it's necessarily even so much the roster changes as much as it was that addition of Baskin just meshed so heavily with the team. Maybe they're still benefiting a little bit off that honeymoon period, but Spacestation, this is a big set for them today up against Splyce if they want to have any chances of staying up at the top there with E-United.
And these standings could really switch about today because every single team in North America is going to be in action today in one form or another. And we start things off with Spacestation Gaming up against Splyce. Splyce came into the split tackle and a lot of high hopes for people. They've just made a roster change though, which has been very discussed because the best has been in, the best has been out when he's been needed. But moswal's the new member of this roster.
Best has come in and helped out the team when they needed somebody to be there. They did decide to go through with moswal as their primary mid laner, but Splyce are as random as the day can be. I mean, I just don't really know what to ever expect from this team. I think that's one of their primary advantages in NA is that they are just so bizarre at moments.
Is that because of their picks really more than anything else, or the play style?
It does feel, with the meta being as open as it is right now, that kind of can benefit Splyce as long as they don't get too out of control. They have had a tendency to, I think, go above and beyond what was probably necessary, but I like that they are happy to try being innovative.
And obviously their opposition today up against Splyce is going to be Spacestation Gaming, with a roster change of their own this year as well. How's that working out for them, you feel?
Spacestation, I think, also needed a little bit of warm-up time with Venenu. It does seem as though they've started to find a little bit more of that rhythm. I think Venenu has definitely meshed in very well with this Space Station roster, and that was also just kind of to be expected. You know that Venenu's going to have sick mechanics. You know that he's going to have great map awareness and the like, and I think, if anything, it helps out andinster quite a lot, because that was one thing that it did seem as though Andy and Baskin were never really on the same page for, is at times their target focus could be a little bit awkward, but sure, it's felt a lot smoother, and I think that we've also seen a little bit of better performances out of Andy since the start of the fall split, but it's finding the consistency that's going to be the most key thing here for Space Station.
Then as we look towards this game, then obviously Splyce, they are the adventurous type over in North America. If you've ever seen Europe, you'll know that Splyce are very vindictive, or remind me a lot of Mouse Esports to an extent, or even some SKs now and again when they like to throw out the unconventional picks to try and make them work.
I can definitely get that vibe from between Mouse and Splyce. I do think that there are some minor differences in terms of where the aggression is actually pinpointed at for both teams, and I think for Splyce especially, a lot of that tends to centralize around Aror. He definitely feels a little bit more like the shot caller. I could be wrong in that. Maybe Aror doesn't have anything to do with it, but he does seem as though he's great at just understanding how to really maneuver into the backline as a frontlining member and still cause such a disturbance.
Well, let's get into picks and bans then and see how Splyce did, because obviously coming into this, a lot of people will be having Splyce as the underdogs in this game, and rightfully so. Space Station Gaming been around the scene a long time, some of those players, and have been at the top level for a very long time indeed. Chedarbug will be the first ban for Splyce as they receive the first pick.
No real surprises there. A little bit surprised. Actually, I take that back, because it is surprising with how much Cyno has been leaning towards this Chernobog jungle. I am almost under the impression that maybe there's going to be some priority picks towards the Erling, for example, because Cyno has also had a tendency to just kind of fall back onto that pick.
I think the problem is, though, is by using that Chernobog jungle that we've seen so many times before, Taco, from Cyno specifically now, teams are ready for it. So they have game plans in mind. If you're going to go Chernobog in the jungle, we know how to deal with it. We've got a game plan of pick these gods to counter that.
Well, one thing's for sure, Space Station don't want to allow Cyno to have one of his more signature gods, but the first pick out Puch.
What a time to be alive.
A pretty frisky one, if you ask me, dude. Just I understand that Puch has definitely started to surface and rise lately. I think we have Pretty Prime to also thank for that. He's had some awesome performances on this god, but it's the space control, I think, and just the constant slows can be such a nuisance. It also really deters teams from wanting to go for the Baron picks, just because the anti-heal is so strong, and having the capability to stun an entire team even from receiving a heal is pretty important during team fights.
And when you think about Baron Samedi that's been drafted by Space Station Gaming, you've got to be careful of those stuns that can come out from Puch and that sustain. Splyce, though, well aware that Space Station Gaming were probably going to go with this sort of route. Baron Samedi and Jar locked in. They're going to respond with Xbalanque and Artio. So far I see plenty of slows, cripple, and on top of that, Darkest of Nights.
But I'm not really seeing the heavy crowd control that I would probably want so far from Splyce's composition. They still have their 4th and 5th selections to go for it, but I definitely think that they need maybe another Guardian possibly to kind of compensate for their low crowd control right now. Artio is mostly just a god who never dies. Same thing for Puch. It's annoying, but you can still handle it. I definitely think that Splyce are going to need some form of control to try and better protect their carries. They're also probably aware of that. The concern concern also, though, is Space Station are just buckling down so heavily on this early game pressure that if Splyce aren't careful and they go a little bit too late game oriented, like with Gebs and the like, then they also run the problem of just losing out entirely on the mid and early.
Spacestation Gaming, though, are going to ban out away the Raven and the Raven and the Ratatoska, the double R's, for that of the jungle position to hit Cyno a little bit more. Now, we've seen Artio in the jungle. I'm not sure if he's going to be here today, but like you said, they've got 2 picks remaining. They're going to need some CC to go along with this. So taking Raven and Ratatoska out doesn't surprise me, as they are 2 junglers that do bring some good CC.
They are, and I am... Kali! We get first pick Puch and now a 4th pick Kali from Splyce. I'm telling you, this team is...
So, talk about Kali a little bit more for me, because obviously we don't see Kali too often in the Pro League at the moment. She's had a lot of itemization. Some of the items that have like been created and been adjusted this season should play into Kali's favor, sure?
It should. The concern with Kali is that her clear really isn't as terrible as some people might automatically assume for her early game jungle presence. The problem is that she's so heavy risk versus reward, because with Kali you are banking everything into that single target focus, and I am not certain that Splyce's current composition is really all that gauged towards targeting one member out of Space Station. I think that they might have some struggles there, but I do like the acquisition of Sobek for Splyce. I think that that's the peel as well as the initiation that they definitely needed.
Well then, interesting compositions from both. As Wukong was the final pick for Aquarius in that solo lane by the looks of it. Who do you guys at home think will win game 1? The fans amongst you will be probably rooting for Splyce because they like to bring out the unconventional Puch and Kali on a team. What year is this? But on top of that, Space Station Game, fan favorites? We'll find out. Let's get it over to John Finch and Ryan Bailey.
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Taco. It is indeed Finch and Aggro. Right, I had to think about it just like Hindu did there to remember who it was.
Oh, yeah, it's me, by the way. Hey, everybody. How's everyone doing today?
Splyce up against Space Station Gaming. And some interesting picks here right out of the gate. They prioritize the Opwash overall first.
Yep.
They pick up the Kali for Cyno.
Yep.
And we were talking about this draft a little bit here, right? If we're 30-something minutes in this game, you're feeling pretty good about that.
Very good. Splyce's late game is very, very strong, but they don't have a lot of control overall. I mean, Kali has the stun, but it's basically single target. Divios is really going to be needing to pick the right targets with these charged plays. It really does feel very reliant on Divios in this solo lane.
They're going to need a lot out of him, and to make their job worse, Space Station Gaming should be perfectly competent throughout that early to mid game here between andinster here on the Naja, BaRRaCCuDDa on the Anhur as well. Sometimes that pressure can be a little bit rough for them. We'll see if they can make it up. As Aror is going to be playing the Artio in the support role as well. I know we see some Artio, but we don't always see her over here. We see her in the solo lane sometimes.
This is definitely an Aror style of pick, though. Aror wants to be able to do his own damage and be able to provide that extra bit of lane pressure and kill potential is the big thing. Aurora is definitely a big fan of those kill potential types of gods, the Kumbhakarnas of the world that he really vibes with. And Artio, not my favorite support. I think she is a little bit too easily disrupted when she isn't ahead in farm. When she is ahead in farm, say out of solo lane, she feels really, really difficult to handle. But if you're even or behind, she doesn't bring that same level of impact. But Aurora has definitely had good games on it before, so not out of the realm of possibility.
That's a nice trade for andinster there in the mid lane too. Sash right into the ring bounce. moswal going to take a few lumps for it. But to speak more to your point, right, Aurora likes that kill potential. He's gone with the horrific emblem, which feels kind of Aurora, right? It's not so much that we're faster, it's that you're slower, and he wants to be able to kind of pile on top of you and try and get that kill taken care of. So even though it is the Xbalanque here with the Artio, with the horrific emblem, and it is into the sprint, which can counter it rather well, but if they time it correctly, they certainly have some kill potential here.
Now that Consigned Spirits is going to make that horrific emblem a little bit worse. I mean, that extra movement speed that you get from it, the slow ability isn't going to be quite as potent.
Cyno in trouble yet again. First blood for andinster. This Naja has had control here in the middle lane as he puts down the Kali.
This is what you want to do against Kali every time. As moswal insta-clears the wave at level 3, so he's able to get out of there in time. andinster spent a little bit too much time waiting behind him before coming in towards the mid lane. I think that just heading towards back camps in that spot may have been a little bit of a better use of Andy's time, but this Kali is going to be pressured by the Naja in particular. And it did force andinster to go for beads because there is good enough CC potential on Splyce to force a no blink early on, but I think Cyno is going to be under pressure the majority of this game if Spacestation has their way.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we expect it to be, just like based on this matchup, right? Where andinster would have this pressure early on. And he was able to do it without really even making Cyno think about using the beads, it looks like. He still has those without having been used. Now, I don't know if that would have been enough to save him. The lockdown didn't seem as much important as andinster kind of covering that distance. But definitely something to show where Cyno didn't feel like that was going to help.
Aquarius doesn't have the 72 transformations, but I love how he just runs right at Cyno. Don't let him come anywhere near this blue buff. And this is where that lack of early pressure in the jungle hurts you, but it also compounds with the lack of pressure that you'll have in solo lane in the early game with the Sobek. This is a low-pressure draft basically across the board from Splyce. moswal will get pressure in mid, and we're seeing the fruits of that now as Splyce do get a red buff invade, and it's perfect for Cyno to come over here and get some of this much-needed golden experience. In dual lane, we'll have some degree of pressure early on, but eventually, once BaRRa is able to full clear with Impale, it'll start to go Spacestation's way. So come 8-9 minutes, you really only have mid lane that'll start to go in favor of Splyce.
Right, and moswal, for what it's worth, is playing rather comfortably here on this op wash. I did want to ask you, he's elected to go with this Mage's Blessing start on the op wash, which sometimes we don't see from a lot of our other mages. We've seen the Book of Thoth rush, the Boots 2 rush as well, but not the call here from moswal.
No, I think it's the MP5 that he's getting from the Mage's Blessing that makes him want this pickup here. That's the only thing that would really lend itself to picking up Mage's Blessing. Maybe he can clear at level 3 instantly, where you can't without Mage's Blessing. I'm not a big Opwash player, to be perfectly frank. He's basically just less fun Zeus to me, so I don't play quite as much Opwash. But I think that it does end up being more about the MP5 than anything else. But Venenu, on the other hand, also going with something a little bit different. He started Book 2 and then immediately backed and bought Messenger's Mask. This is 1,100 gold for a decent amount of movement speed, good power, good CDR. This does slow down the build a lot for Venenu, and I think that this means that Spacestation is going to look to invade the next red buff or something along those lines. Spacestation wants to play aggressive in the early game, because if you aren't playing aggressive when you only have these two items, or maybe you finish Book of Thoth and you try to play aggressive, then there's not a whole lot of reason to be going for this, and it would be better to go the slower but more gold-efficient, ultimately, boots right after Book of Thoth.
Blue buff coming up one more time, and Spacestation want to be here for the invade one more time. But it's an all-in rotation from Splyce. andinster takes quite a bit of damage. They force out the ultimate from CycloneSpin as well, but it looks like Splyce should have control. Aqua's still sticking around, but with two members here, he might not be able to do much, but he's still sticking around.
Yeah, he's got his ultimate. Yeah, he's pretty safe to try and contest and steal. Doesn't end up getting it, but doesn't lose a lot by going for it, as andinster actually used the Windfire wheels because of that Darkest of Nights. It just doesn't end up being enough information there for him to know if he needed to use that ultimate defensively, and he errs on the side of caution.
It does get him right on out of there, but as you said, a nice win, and that's good for CycloneSpin to be able to have some impact on what's going on the solo lane side with this Xbalanque pick. He doesn't appear to be under much duress right now up against BaRRaCCuDDa. Their early start has given him a bit of a lead, so that's working out in his favor. As Divios just trying to force Aqua back here with the ult.
That ultimate feels a little bit weird there from Divios, but it does the job, which is forces Aquarius back to base and doesn't allow him to get those creeps from outside the tower. It basically denied him, 60 gold or something along those lines, and that ends up being worth your ultimate in my mind. I don't hate that from Divios. He's already got the cooldown boots. It'll be up fairly soon.
Life of the party, going to pull Aurora and chunk him quite low. Desert Fury there for the follow-up. BaRRaCCuDDa gets killed number 2 for Spacestation Gaming. Aror gets punished just going for his own buff.
Perfect recognition by JeffHindla that dash was down from Aurora and no CC immunity on Artio, so that's an easy Life of the Party pull in, and a BaRRaCCuDDa good commit right off the bat. And that's where this lane is going to start going in Spacestation's favor. Ultimates now in Spacestation's lane are so much more impactful, because CycloneSpins is more about affecting the entire map, and it's not about fighting in lane quite as much. Aror doesn't have a true ultimate. He's a stance switcher. Whereas, Desert Fury, one of the best Hunter ultimates in the game right now, super low cooldown, does an absurd amount of damage. And the ultimate for JeffHindla sets up the kill so easily in that spot. We just saw it.
moswal in trouble again. Windfire wheels off the mark from andinster. So moswal will make it out of there without many options. He would have at least been forced into the beads there on that one, but not going to land. But Spacestation Gaming should be able to head right back in, so no harm, no foul. They just end up dropping a potential force of the beats.
That is that is the right idea for andinster, because if moswal gets hit and doesn't beads in time, that's a kill.
Yes, he does.
Even though he doesn't die from Windfire Wheel's damage, Venenu was getting in range of using that ultimate to reach, and even if he isn't there in time, then JeffHindla probably had enough follow-up.
Sash doesn't find CycloneSpin either. He's able to Rising Jaguar right out of there. andinster, though, is showing presence in multiple parts of the map. He's been sitting kind of in mid lane a good bit, but now coming over to duo lane to make sure BaRRaCCuDDa can get a little bit of lane pressure. Now has CycloneSpin backed up underneath the tower. But Cyno wants his 1v1 in the jungle. Already has andinster below half. The stun's going to land as well from CycloneSpin. Now he comes in with the poison darts, but no more follow.
Big rotation now onto JeffHindla, and he's in serious trouble. He's going to get stunned from that fleeting breath, and that will secure the kill for Cyno on this Kali. Venenu's here and has that ultimate, but Andy doesn't have his quite yet, and that makes him a much more valuable target and an easier one at that.
They end up falling right back, but that is nice to be able to get that kill onto Cyno, let him be the one that sort of is working on getting as far into his build path as he can. We talked about it already, man. Kali, it feels so difficult to try and stop her once she makes it to the late game. She has that destruction ultimate, which feels almost like a second life for her, where you can't bring her down and she'll be able to heal back off it. If she finds her target, she'll be bursted right back up as well towards nearly full HP. So once she gets to that point where she's shredding basically whoever's in her line, in her path, and she feels so hard to kill, Spacestation will be in trouble.
And Cyno's done a great job of staying not just even with andinster, but ahead. He's ahead in XP right now. Even
he's been on that farm train.
He's been on the farm train for sure, and that's what you have to do as Kali, is take your spots where you can get kills like he just did on the left-hand side, but the majority of the game is you versus the AI. You're PvEing the most of the game as Kali until you get to the point where you are unstoppable in these team fights. And you do have to, it's not just press 4, win the game for Kali. I think a lot of people just kind of assume that, but against pro teams who are so good at communicating who the target is and making sure that you stay safe if you're the target and peeling for the target in particular, it does take a lot of skill from the Kali player to put themselves in the right spot to get those waterfall kills. But if you get one, it gets that much easier to get the second, that much easier to get the third. There's a reason we've seen a couple Kali pentas before, we'll put it that way.
Yeah, and there's a reason, to your point, that we don't see that much Kali. As much potential as she does have, as you said, it can be difficult when you're communicating. A lot of the times with some of these like high burst assassins who kind of want to like stick to their target, they don't nearly do as well because communications is kind of their Achilles heel, and that's what's so strong here at the SPL. So we'll see if Cyno can make it work for the squad. He has the Odibo proccing, plenty of attack speed.
Interesting that he goes Odibo here, and no hasten katana. I was going to bring that up earlier, that he didn't start with katana 1, instead went for mace 1 alongside his assassin's blessing. This is really just trying to get his attack speed up as soon as possible, and that makes his eventual power spike with hastened katana that much better. But the way he's building this makes me think he might not go for hastened at all. This might be a crusher next, which gives him more attack speed pen and more damage on the lash. And then after that goes for a chin size, something along those lines. He's just really trying to cut you up in the first 3 to 4 auto attacks and not worried about hitting you for auto attacks 7 through 10 and more worried about his initial burst.
Aquarius is going to be forced up into that somersault cloud. Where will he come down, kind of is the question. Cyno and Divios spread out, so it's to track him down. He lands back in place. I think he might not have been able to make it over the wall. Cyno does end up getting knocked up. He had the Ox form still there, so Aqua is out, but it does cost him the ult.
It does. Close there for Aqua. A little bit of a misclick for sure, but ends up not paying for it. I do like the Odysseus bow because the way that it works, even if you don't have any targets for it to branch to, it's basically like adding in an extra auto attack to your attack chain every few hits. And Kali's hitting you so quickly that all of those hits will come fast enough that it is a bigger burst of damage from this Odysseus bow. The fact that it has 0 power is a bit concerning, but as long as he gets power elsewhere in the build, that's why I think Crusher would be a perfect option for him in this spot, then it'll end up really fitting the rest of the build nicely.
BaRRaCCuDDa does get rooted, has to use beads. JeffHindla's right there to try and support him. And looks like Aror not going to be able to keep up the chase. BaRRaCCuDDa will make it out, but with beads down, he is certainly a target. But will Cyno be aggressive? Up till now, we haven't really seen that, right? Like you said, he'll be in the team fights when there's over-aggression, but he hasn't looked so much for picks or ganks himself.
Not quite yet, but we're getting to the point. Once he gets Blink, then it really does open the door for Kali so much more that she doesn't need to commit that leap in order to get involved in these team fights pretty quickly. I think that once Cyno hits 12, we are much more likely to see him around.
Talisman of Energy coming in for JeffHindla. You know what? We've seen a lot of interesting support items, I feel like, right?
Yep.
We've seen the Oni Hunters, the Genjis, the Gauntlet Thief, which is rather normal, and all the Aura items as well. But there just seems to be a lot of options with where you want to go initially in your support build and what is what you do for your team. It looks like JeffHindla is worried about this magical damage and get a little bit of extra bump to that movement too.
That movement speed is so good up against characters like Apwash that can't really get away from you. That allows you to reposition around him super well. This stacks, of course, with Consigned Spirit's movement speed buff that you'll get if you hit an enemy god. So if you're fighting in lane, there's minions there, you get that movement speed buff. You hit an enemy god with Consigned Spirits, that's another movement speed buff. And then you're really, really quick. Your whole team is really, really quick from there on out. And I like the idea. I do think it might end up making Jeff a little bit squishier than he really wants to be up against Cyclone and Cyno in particular.
Right.
But having 3 magical damage dealers that you really do have to worry about, I think that this is a fine pickup. I think it's a better late game item than early game item. But Jeff can't really go for Gauntlet of Thebes on a mage support. He needs some level of tankiness, and just feels like Heartward Amulet isn't going to get the job done for whatever reason.
And it does kind of feel like a recognition that Aror really is going this Artio, trying to be relevant early. And so trying to mitigate some of that as Cyno has to use speeds in the 2v2. He does look for the auto trade, but Aqua wants the Tiger Stun. Not going to find it, a little bit too far away. Ultimate coming over the top. Cyno will blink right on out of there, and they force the Kali to back. Divios now trapped alone against 3, but is relatively safe if he needs to leave.
I'm pretty sure Aqua just tried to blink for the body block into the Vulcan ultimate. Because he blinked and didn't do anything, and it was right on the edge of where the Vulcan ult was about to land. I'm pretty sure that was his thought process, and if he would have done that, you would have been solo casting. Because I will have seen it all at that point. That would have been absurd.
Looks like recognition here, though, that Gold Fury is being looked at by Splyce and Spacestation. Just going to kind of grab the Pyromancer while they have the opportunity. BaRRaCCuDDa gets plucked back in. Desert Fury is released, but he does end up getting stunned on the tail end by Cyclone. Cyno gets impaled, but Divios does way too much with that lurking in the water. Splyce grabbed the Gold Fury and the kill.
Yeah, but Cyclone definitely going to fall. Aquarius teleported in, I think, on this backside, and he's wreaking absolute havoc. Moswal on the run as well. Now, he's got a lot of Guardians here with him to help him out, but look at this path from Venenu.
Venenu is going to come around the backside. Backfire puts in good damage. But at this point, the disengage should be on for Splyce. They do end up going 1-for-1. They grab the Gold Fury. Spacestation grab the Pyromancer, but again, those are not equivalent. Splyce overall probably should be coming out the better.
Red buff invade for Spacestation as well.
True.
Basically makes it even in my mind, and they won't be able to get this tier 1 tower, not without BaRRaCCuDDa here. So not all bad for Spacestation, as here's the team fight recap. Yeah, very, very close. 600 gold in the lead for Splyce in that regard, so a little over 100 gold per player, 120. You get an extra sentry reward, which is certainly relevant, but not game-breaking by any stretch.
No, not at all. Splyce just making a play there, and as you can see by these charts, it really is about as even as you can ask for. And if you're Splyce, I think even really is pretty good for you at this point, right? If that's what you can ask for. I don't want to make it sound like Spacestation are going to fall off the map in the late game. I think Anhur's late game relevance has gone up recently, and they certainly still have Baron and Najan some potent tools. But it's just so scary to try and outdo a Kali late.
BaRRaCCuDDa goes for Bloodforge in this spot, and that is interesting to me. Maybe I didn't see when he finished it. I don't know that it had to have been after boots, and maybe he just had the gold, though that never means that it's actually no drop off, because then that's less gold you have to spend on your next few items. As Cyno gonna blink onto BaRRaCCuDDa, good damage coming. Aegis will buy him a second. It's really good damage coming from Desert's Fury, but that destruction ultimate from Cyno just enough to get him out of there.
Wow, BaRRaCCuDDa survives all that. The first heavy commit we've seen from Cyno all game long, really. It was underneath the tier 1, and BaRRaCCuDDa lives. But now Aror wants to come in and punish it. Does have the crippled field, and will indeed find the kill for the cleanup. Now JeffHindla has to run for the hills. As CycloneSpin has the autos, but they can't finish it off. There's no one to help Divios on the right-hand side.
Ven gonna secure that with a well-timed ultimate. Now Moswal has got to get on the run. Sustain will be decent here, but Aegis is in a good enough auto attack from Andinster, gets the job done. So 2-for-1 in favor of Spacestation, but Splyce get this left side T1, and BaRRa just a little bit too greedy to try and step up and help out JeffHindla in that spot, and that was a great bait by Cyclone.
Well, Andinster's going to make this even better here for Cyno if they can find it. They do get the cudgel. Venenu will indeed find the kill. Make it 3-for-1. You are right, though. That tier 1 tower is going the way of Splyce on that back end. but perhaps not playing around the blink engage from Artio from Aror, maybe not expecting it.
Ven actually finishes the Messenger's Mask and goes for Bumbas. And that's why he was, I couldn't believe he was in range to kill Cyno with the backfire in that spot, but it's because of that extra movement speed from Bumba's Mask. And this is the beginning of what a lot of us were kind of expecting with these masks, are these sort of complete transitions where Ven is really just relying on the fact that his damage is so high in the late game anyways that losing 10% off the top end won't hurt him as much as that insane amount of movement speed that he gets will help him. But it's not just losing damage, you're taking more damage as well. You still get the 50 power, 20% CDR is really, really nice. Makes him so that he doesn't have to build a whole lot of CDR elsewhere in the build. I'm still not sold on Bumba's Mask on traditional mages. I think that losing 10% and making yourself 10% more vulnerable is a massive downside.
Yes.
But Zeros built it yesterday on Thoth and did way more damage than anyone else in the game. So there's still, and still did relevant damage with the ultimate. Vulcan ult hits too hard at times. Like it's unnecessarily hard hitting. So if you take 10% off that, doesn't really hurt you that much. 130% scaling whenever you shoot at max distance, by the way. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Coming around from that ultimate. It is scary, though. it could potentially make it that much easier for Cyno to complete his dives if Venenu is the one that he ends up looking for in the back end. Vulcan very reliant on Magma Bomb in that situation to sort of reposition, along with Backfire. Cyclone has to drop the beads to get away from Andinster. He'll drop the ultimate as well, but that tier 1 tower should be a foregone conclusion.
Divios shows up as Andinster misses the ultimate. He's going to get punished for this without a doubt. moswal does blow him up with that corpse explosion as JeffHindla, trying to keep everyone away, does so and allows Divios to fall.
BaRRaCCuDDa finds a double kill by getting Cyno as well. 2 for 1 in Space Station's favor, and BaRRaCCuDDa not done yet. Triple kill for the hometown hero. He wants moswal as well. JeffHindla right here for the slow to root. Aror with a great blink to come in, but JeffHindla finds one more. That makes it 4 overall in Space Station's favor. Aror got a lead.
Great fight from BaRRaCCuDDa. Just the beautiful positioning, so far away from everybody else, and that impale on the Cyno, man. Cyno never gets a chance to use his ultimate in that fight because Barra pins him to the wall and kills him before he ever has a chance to get out of there. This Bloodforge makes him hit so freaking hard. There's just no way that you could actually end up surviving that impale stun. Look at the damage in that fight. Really not as far off as it should have been, considering how one-sided that fight felt. But it's that Andinster took a lot of that damage, Aquarius and JeffHindla took a lot of that damage. Ven and Barra, barely any at all. And so that's why it looked so much more one-sided than the team fight recap shows.
Well, now it's time to take a look at the Fire Giant. It's down to half HP, and for what it's worth, no one from Splyce is really nearby. Divios is on his way, but I don't think he's going to make it here in time. Fire Giant secured by Space Station off the back of that big 4-for-1 fight in the left side jungle. Now they have a chance to group up for towers on the solo side of the map. And just like that, this game is way out of control.
And now this is where the late game composition doesn't feel quite as good because it's not late game yet. It's only 20 minutes. You're only level 15, 16 on your carries that really want to excel in the later stages. And you still need a couple really, really key items. Cyclone still needs an Executioner. Cyno still needs Chin Size and maybe even an Executioner of his own. He doesn't have any pen whatsoever.
Yeah, he didn't finish
in this
Crusher,
build.
Yeah.
Hasn't finished that. That's probably just waiting to be a Titan's Bane at this point, would be my guess. As Aror taken for a ride. Ven has the ultimate on the way down. Aror doesn't take a whole lot from it. Bumba's massive.
It does end up hitting him, but like you said, not nearly enough to finish the job off. The tier 2 still stands. But the real goal is the Phoenix on the right-hand side. Divios frontlining for them, taking quite a bit of poke. Meanwhile, Andinster will grab the tier 2 in mid, and they might even be able to grab this right side Phoenix just with a man push. It's still standing. JeffHindla has gone forward to finish it off, but gives up his life.
That disaster. Right side Phoenix does fall because Aquarius goes around the back, but Space Station are getting absolutely routed in the team fight. Cyno picks up a double, and this is what you were hoping for with the late game composition, is that the enemy team makes a mistake.
Aqua goes right back in. Unfortunately, not much he can do there. Only Venenu, the lone chef, still standing with no one else in the kitchen.
No, not too many cooks this time.
No. Too few cooks at least. But yeah, a bit of an overstep there. And it looked like that was going to work out for them in a way it really shouldn't, right? Andy was threatening the tier 2 and gets it in the middle lane. It was really just the 3 members. They didn't quite have Aqua with them for that push, and they almost get the Phoenix, but they aren't able to get quite enough damage on. They get forced back out. Aqua eventually comes in and grabs it, and that fight comes up Splyce.
Xbalanque ultimate, if you aren't sold on how good this ult is in competitive, this is the set to watch because it has forced so many awkward fights and awkward engagements to happen and go Splyce's way. Because without Xbal ult, you add in literally any other Hunter ultimate in that spot. A team moves out of the way of Hou-Yi ult or turns around for Petrify and then just gets the Phoenix. But without understanding just what was coming at them, they can't stick around and get those extra couple autos. That makes them back up. Then they're like, okay, it's low, let's get back in there because it's very important for us to get this Phoenix in. We can do it. They end up one auto attack short and then get absolutely crushed trying to get back in there and get the finishing blow. And now only one person has Fire Giant left, and Splyce only down 2K gold. This game went from very close to all Space Station to very close very quickly.
In a flash. And I wasn't able to track Aror in that fight, but how do you feel his impact was in that defense? Because remember, he not narrowly, but he does survive that big ultimate from Venenu and andinster combo. They commit on the Artio underneath the tier 2, and then they kind of wrap back around on the other end. I mean, maybe if Aror's a little bit later that one or is dead entirely, that might look different, but I didn't get to see his impact much in that one either.
I mean, yeah, if he dies in that spot, then it's a totally different team fight. Sure. But he definitely did make an impact, but it was really moswal's ultimate and CycloneSpin's ultimate that that's what you're drafting them for. It's not like those two made some insane plays that Aror couldn't match. It's that this draft is designed to be difficult to siege against because Opwash is inherently difficult to siege against.
Aqua going for the wraparound on the backhand side, and looks like Splyce wants to defend on the tier 2 this time as Cyno wants to lock down the Wukong. The 1v1 is exactly the fight he wants, but it's not a 1v1, not when andinster shows up. Windfire wheels off the mark again, but the dunk doesn't land. Cyno jumps out, still alive. CycloneSpin wants to try and chase him down. Autos can't quite reach.
Divios on the left, though, looking for Venenu as he's got to use some time to get away. Good sprint as Divios now brought back in. There's only one party to attend, and Divios leaves quickly.
moswal did have to drop the ultimate there, but only keeps him away from a moment. And now that tier 2 tower certainly will come down. That fight between Cyno and Aquarius, even Anhur came as well. Very nearly helped that fight for Splyce in a big way, but they couldn't quite lock Aqua down the back end. I think Cyclone hits 1 or 2 with the extended range autos, but it just wasn't enough to bring down the Wukong.
I love that commit, though, from Aqua and andinster onto Cyno. Whenever Cyno starts boxing up against Aquarius, Cyno's picked up a Bumba's Mask. He actually sold that Mace 1, so it was entirely about his starting clear speed. It gives you 5 more power than what the Katana gives you. It's totally about that, so he sells it, picks up his Bumba's Mask. Cyno has no pen, so does barely any damage to Aquarius quickly enough to make him reconsider. And then it's just, he takes 10% more damage. Let's just kill him, and they nearly do before destruction ends up going off. Cyno escapes with a well-timed leap, but still forces Aqua back, and you force Cyno, who's your biggest threat at this point for the carries, out of the team fight. And Divios and Aror can't do the damage by themselves to get the kills onto Venenu and onto BaRRaCCuDDa, whereas if Cyno is there, that could have been a Splyce fight.
My guy's cloak removed from moswal for the next 60 seconds, and what a 60 seconds it could be. Fire Giant back here on the map, and Space Station Gaming have the positional advantage. Divios one more time is the front line, and they've already caught him out and punished him a few times in this game. He's got to make sure he's careful as Space Station start up the FG.
Cyno's in mid lane, so he's going to head on over. Has Blink available, whereas Blink's still down for a little bit longer for Aquarius. And Space Station reasonably gun-shy at this point. This is not a fight that you really just want to shove down Splyce's throat. You really have to make them come to you in this spot because the initiation for Space Station isn't very good. andinster has to hit a kind of blind ultimate, but doesn't have Blink to do so. He went with Aegis, so he's got to get close enough to land it, and that's got to be onto a priority target.
Space Station decided to come down and force Splyce out instead. I love watching these clean calls from these top-end teams, man. The way they all come off the Fire Giant. Now they've changed the game plan up entirely, where instead of taking that fight in the jungle, they're going to try and just force down solo lane. They still see Cyno in mid by those minions, and they have a chance on the previously weakened Phoenix to burn it down very quickly. andinster already inside the actual Phoenix range. Venenu taking quite a bit of poke, but they have to give it up. Now Aror blinks in as well. The fight has turned and might be in Splyce's favor.
Andy separated, decent Vulcan ult, but andinster actually gets a target up into the sky with that Windfire Wheels. It was moswal who has to use the Aegis upon landing. Cyno, first one out, never got his ultimate off as moswal just trying to get away from Aqua. Does so successfully, but the rest of his team are falling apart at the seams.
BaRRaCCuDDa finds one as well, and Andinster still not done, at least not yet. Ring bounce, almost. I love the idea of bouncing off the Titan. That will secure the solo side. Phoenix, they can wrap around and grab this mid one if they want. Fire Giant still standing and looking mighty juicy as well. Space Station Gaming, they give up on the FG. They take the fight around the Phoenix, and they win it even through the Empty the Crypts.
That was a huge play by Andinster in particular. That fight easily goes Splyce's way if they're able to separate Andy and kill him quickly. Divios does the first part, but Andinster, right upon landing, not only hits a target with Windfire Wheels, but the best target he could have had.
That means now the Fire Giant under siege by Space Station, but Splyce don't want to give it up. Aror finds Venenu. Space Station will secure the objective, but now Aror left a little bit on no man's land. BaRRaCCuDDa happy to finish that one off. CycloneSpin in a little bit of trouble as well. Aquarius hits him with the staff and puts him down. Now it's Divios, Cyno, and moswal left to defend.
I don't know what happened to Cyno in that last team fight. Didn't get the ultimate off and didn't use the beads, didn't use the blink. I mean, you are picking Kali to win team fights around 28 minutes and later because your ultimate is just unanswerable in team fights like that. Splyce probably feeling like they should have won it, and I'm inclined to agree. I'd have to go back and watch what happened to Cyno there, but definitely not what he was looking for in particular.
And they've done the work to make sure that this game is not entirely out of reach by this point, right? That's essentially kind of all they were doing, was trying to make sure that when they get here, that Cyno would be in a position where he could get the job done for the rest of the squad, but can't find the positioning up against Space Station. Now armed with Fire Giant, at least on 4 members. They should be able to cause some damage, but look at Cyno here. Is he trying to find someone in the jungle? Looks like no, he's retreating.
He's just trying to get a little bit of farm for himself, strip away some buffs here and there, but even with the ultimate up, you don't want to take those the majority of the time. Unless you find BaRRaCCuDDa alone or Venenu alone, he can't really go one-on-one quite as easily up against Andinster because that ultimate is so difficult for you to deal with, especially with both players having Bumba's mask. The drawbacks are negated one-on-one because you take 10% more damage, but they deal 10% less damage. So it ends up you both are just super fast.
This is the new meta where everyone buys Bumba's mask and then there's no drawback.
So then it's just an even game, right? For everybody.
But everyone's fast.
Zipping around the map. I could like it. It would be like a masquerade, right? Like because everyone's wearing a mask.
No, that'd be the new ISIS skin you're thinking of.
It is that. It can be 2 things.
No, it can't.
Okay.
It can only be 1.
It can only be 1 more defense here for Splyce, or else the game's just over. They lose this defense, so they got to make it happen right here, right now. Space Station Gaming forcing down mid and left side. Phoenix. Divios will frontline once more. Got to find a way to make sure he's having that maximum impact. Sobek can be such a nuisance in these fights, but Space Station have done a good job, I feel like, isolating him and burning him quickly enough.
They definitely have, and he just hasn't been able to get that full-on tankiness quite yet. I mean, Mantle of Discord is the ultimate you can't kill me item on Divios. Even Spirit Robe from here would be great because so much of what Space Station has done to him is centered around that Life of the Party ultimate and waiting until his Lurking in the Waters is down. Jeff has been so patient with that ult in this game and has been a big reason why they're successful.
moswal already loses the Mad Guy's cloak. Divios burned again, pulled back in by Life of the Party, just barely makes it out away from that ultimate from Venenu. Going in as Cyno, he's already used the destruction, can't find anyone there, and Aqua cleans him up. Andinster finds moswal 5v3.
Great angle there from Aqua and Andy. They make sure that Cyno can't get away. moswal ends up falling before the Aegis is used. And these team fights for Splyce just feel awkward, don't they? They just feel a little bit disjointed. They don't seem to really be on the same page. Divios splits the uprights with the Blink Pluck, and ultimate is still there for him, and he's going to use it. This should get some good damage off.
They should at least allow him to find someone to BaRRa who does indeed get chunked by it. CycloneSpin punishes the over-aggressing Andinster. Aqua does find the kill and gets away from the Titan, but Phoenix is there to trap him. Ultimate allows him to escape. Mid-Phoenix goes down, and Aror stuck a little bit isolated around 4 members.
Aqua comes back down, healthy enough now. Consigned Spirits gets everyone nice and healthy. BaRRaCCuDDa stomps Aror. And Space Station looks primed to take game 1.
Yeah, that's going to do it. Space Station Gaming will top off Splyce here in game 1. 31 minutes, 45 seconds up against the Kali and the Opwash. Space Station really seemed undeterred. There was maybe a small stumble here or there, I would say, on an otherwise very elegant-looking trot from Space Station to victory.
It's that right side Phoenix Siege that got a little bit awkward, but that game, in my mind, was blown open by BaRRaCCuDDa in the fight that he had around that tier 1 on left side in duo lane. Jeff played very, very well on top of it, but that fight from BaRRaCCuDDa is what opened the door for Spacestation. It looked like the door was coming back open for Splyce, but then andinster made a great play on the right-hand side after that fight where it looks like it's going to go Splyce's way.
Yeah.
Somehow Cyno dies with ultimate, but it was more about andinster hitting that incredible ultimate on moswal to stop himself from dying and taking the primary damage from Splyce out of the fight simultaneously.
Who stuck out for you all out there in Mixer chat? Go and let us know. Get that MVP vote in while you can. Now we can know who you thought was the star. But man, those right side Phoenix Sieges, those twice, where they had me nervous on those, man, for Spacestation. But you're right, they saved on that second time. andinster able to find a nice one and get them into game 2. But to get a little bit more thoughts on it, let's go a little bit more in depth. Let's get it back over to the desk.
Thanks so much, casters. Yeah, game 1 already in the books. I think Finch said it best, Taco. I think Spacestation just meandered along at a nice gate, and it worked out okay for them. They didn't have to worry too much.
That was kind of the intent, I feel, as well from Spacestation. You pick pressure because you want to have control from the very start of the match. And Splyce, I did like the way that they chose to position themselves early on. I think they did a great job trying to mitigate as much as they could in terms of like that map pressure early on. But Andy just got off to a great start. I think it left mid heartbeat kill, I believe, and that kind of just escalated from that point forward.
Yeah.
And even the moments where Splyce were able to find the initial kills, it was almost always met with a response from Spacestation, either in the exact same area or elsewhere on the map. And I think that was also another problem for Splyce, because they never really had a chance to get any of their own momentum going, since Spacestation was constantly able to create an awkward situation for them somewhere else on the map.
Well, Agro mentioned it on the cast towards the end there. It will be BaRRaCCuDDa with the MVP vote there for that. Well, I guess some of it was definitely down to how things went down at this point in time.
Rightfully earned MVP from BaRRaCCuDDa this match. For everybody who's been asking, where's BaRRaCCuDDa been at? I mean, he's here. He's still lurking, and
We just had to buff Anhur 5 times.
that's all it took. We just needed to bring the King of the Jungle back to the dual lane, and BaRRaCCuDDa, this Bloodforge pickup worked out beautifully for him. The passive, he was able to just continue crushing Splyce at every open opportunity. I love the follow-up that Anhur was able to provide here. I think Jeff and BaRRaCCuDDa, they could not have been more on point with each other this game.
Worked out well for them then, and Spacestation Gaming take game 1 because of it. But on to game 2 then. Now, a lot of focus from Spacestation Gaming was towards in the picks and ban phase of Cyno, and it seemed to work out. They put him on the Carly. Carly didn't really get wind going, really. Got a couple of kills, granted, but was it his fault? Was it just composition? Was it just the better play?
I think that, well, actually, we were having a discussion that I actually liked. Something that you brought up was the fact that Splyce did not have a sprint throughout that entire match, and it felt like it really hindered the team. It was like they handicapped themselves, essentially. They buckled down with 3 blinks onto their front line as well, because I think Divios and Aror both had blinks on the Artio Sobek, and it just generated this issue where if Splyce weren't able to capitalize off of their initial engagement, then it was just a complete turnaround, and Spacestation, with the ability to just run them down, essentially, there was no real escape opportunities for Splyce here. I think that's something they need to work on a little bit better, is just their disengage.